to church. We are happy to have you. Thank you for coming. You may be seated in heavenly places. Please be seated. Turn to somebody and say, don't fight the process. Don't fight it. Tell somebody else, say, don't fight the process. Tell somebody else, don't avoid the process. John chapter 3 is necessary. So go through it, go through it. Tell somebody, process is necessary for longevity. So don't fight it. You know, as human, we struggle with change. And we fight and struggle with anything we don't understand and we can't make sense out of. Life is a process. Life is a process. And process or preparation determines performance and delivery. The difference between the ordinary soldier in the army and commandos or Navy SEALs or special forces is the process or the training or the preparation they had. That is what determines their place. Or process you go through in life will determine your placement and who you become and what you become and your position in what the future holds. Tell somebody, don't fight the process. Don't fight the process. Don't avoid it. Don't avoid it. Tell somebody, go through it. Go through it. Because you are being prepared for something big. You are being prepared for something big. And when I'm through, I'm going to deploy the keys to unlock some doors. Unlock some doors. Is there anybody here who is ready for some open doors? Open doors. Somebody say, open doors. Put your hands together and give God a shout in the house. You see, there are some doors, if you don't go through the process and you take a shortcut, you won't make it, because every shortcut will cut you short. Tell somebody, don't take a shortcut. Go the long way. Go the long way. Because the most dangerous thing anybody can do is to put an amateur or somebody who hasn't been through the process on a platform. They are not prepared and have not been through the process and haven't developed capacity for that platform. It will destroy them. If you want to destroy somebody before their time, don't set them up for anything. Just sometimes when you are a novice and you are young, you don't appreciate wisdom. Now, Joseph found himself in Egypt. Now, we know the story of Joseph, how his father loved him. And sometimes you can be hated for love. That is a whole preaching on itself. Hated for love. It's a title of a message, but I won't preach it today. He was hated for his father's love. Sometimes loving you can turn into hate. Favor can turn into hate. People can hate you because of favor. Sometimes being blessed and envy. Sometimes favor can provoke enemies and jealousy against you. However, he dreamed not once, more than once. Now God speaks most times more than once. The Bible said, once we have heard, twice it's been established that power belongs to God. God said, Abraham, Abraham, verily, verily, I say unto you, Moses, Moses, Simon, Simon. Wherever you hear it twice or more than twice, it means that it is not negotiable and it is irrevocable. It shall come to pass. Put your hands together if you believe that the word of the Lord shall come to pass. Shout yes. And the Bible says, ladies and gentlemen, that he had a dream, told it his brothers, and they hated him. And he dreamed yet another dream and told them again. Sometimes you know how foolish we can be. Sometimes we just want to impress people and let people know how well we are doing, but we don't know that we are speaking to enemies and we are giving information to enemies who will eventually destroy us. And sometimes you say, oh, they are my siblings, they are my brethren, they are my friends. But the Bible said, no man after the flesh. You have to be careful who you tell your dream, because there are dream stealers, dream killers in this life. I have been through a lot of problems in ministry for the past 40 years, and some of them have to do with my own foolishness and my own ignorance and my own mistakes and errors I committed, because I didn't have anybody to guide me and to mentor me. So I was learning on the job, and I made a lot of mistakes. And that was Joseph's problem. Joseph didn't know how to shut his mouth. He didn't know when to speak and when to be quiet. And sometimes so many of us, we say too much to people. Sometimes we don't know who to speak to and who not to speak to. We say too much. We give too much information about ourselves, what we are planning to do, and we don't know that the person we are telling the story is jealous and envious of our dream and will try to kill it or try to kill us, so the dream will never be realized. When I was a young minister, I used to tell everybody my dream and my vision. I used to announce a lot of things. These days I've stopped, because I realized that even in the church there are enemies within. The Bible says a man's enemies shall be those of his own house. And I realized that even among your brothers and your sisters, you can have enemies, like Joseph had enemies among his own siblings. They all plotted to kill him. His own brothers and sisters, same blood, bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. The enemy possessed them and accessed them and provoked them to hate their own brother, their own blood. And the only one who cared for him was his father. And the father could not protect him on the field. There was an assassinating plot on the life of Joseph. Then the assassination plot failed. Then they sold him into slavery. Then he found himself in a 5-star general's house in Egypt called Potiphar. As soon as he began to do well and prospered, to the point where the general didn't know how much money he had in stock. It was only Joseph who knew it. But Joseph never stole a dime. The problem with believers and the church is this: are you faithful? Are you faithful to the extent that you can be trusted with the wealth of another man, where he doesn't even know how much he has? Only you know it, and you won't steal, and you won't take anything and put it away for yourself and be faithful. Joseph was so faithful, he didn't steal a dime. The man didn't. If he told the man that you have 1 million, he would believe it. But the man had more than 1 million, and Joseph could have pocketed it and he wouldn't even have known. And yet, he did not take advantage or exploited his master. He was faithful. Faithful to the point, ladies and gentlemen, that the master's wife started making move on him. Today, there are sugar mamas, not just sugar daddies. The days of sugar daddies, there are sugar mamas who want young people's blood, like sugar daddies. And this was a sugar mama, loaded, 5-star general's wife. And she said, young man, lay with me. I have the ears of my husband. Whatever I tell him, he will do it. If you sleep with me and give me some comfort and some of your young blood, I will talk to my husband. Anything you want, he will do it. And Joseph recognized that God was his source. And he recognized that he couldn't take advantage of his master's wife. And he said, I cannot do it. He took a stand against evil. Is it not interesting that you can take a stand for good things, and you can take a stand against evil and be misrepresented and be implicated? He was implicated for running away from sin and running away from evil. He ended up in prison. This Joseph was going through something. Hated by his brethren, cast into the pit, misrepresented, sold into slavery, went into the house of Potiphar as a slave and a servant. Now, in a foreign land, a slave, nobody to defend you. No lawyer would take your case for you. There is no human right lawyer that can take your case and defend you against Potiphar's wife. You cannot say that the 5-star general's wife is lying. The army will come against that human right lawyer. So no lawyer will take his case. His father was in there to arrange for some lawyers to try and see how they can hear his side of the story. He wasn't given the opportunity to be heard. His master didn't want to hear him because the wife has spoken. And when the wife speaks, that is the end of the matter. God help men who listen to their wives than the voice of God. That's all I will say. Anyway, Joseph found himself in prison. He wasn't just put in an ordinary prison, ladies and gentlemen. The prison he was put in was the prison where the king kept his political prisoners. His political prisoners, enemies of state. So they were people who were on the side of the opposition and people who were on the side of the government. When they misbehave, they are kept in a particular prison and they leave them all there. And that was the kind of prison where Joseph was sent to. Joseph, for whatever reason, one should have been angry with God. That God, why? What have I done? Why is all this evil and adversities befalling me? What is it about me? I'm away from my father. He doesn't even know I'm alive. My own brethren have turned against me, and I have nobody, and I'm a slave. Just when things was beginning to work out for me, I'm being misrepresented, implicated, and here am I in prison. Nobody knows where I am. If I die the death of a prisoner and a slave, to throw his body somewhere. Nobody will ever know what happened to him. But he was still faithful in prison. He was not angry with God nor himself. He didn't blame God nor blame anybody. He did not seek for vengeance against his brethren. He wasn't cold like some people become when they are in trouble. They become cold. They become mean, frustrated, discouraged. Then they have an attitude of being hostile towards everybody because things haven't worked out for them. There are some people in life, when they are old, they become bitter. An angry old man and an angry old lady because life didn't turn out well for them. I don't want to be an angry old man when I am old by the grace of God. And if you don't want to be an angry old man and an angry old lady, you must understand the processes of life. You must understand the protocol of life, the methodologies of life. You must understand how God works. Because if you don't understand how God works, you can abort your own destiny. And you can become an old man and an old lady sitting in a rocking chair, angry with your children and cursing your grandchildren. David was in prison. Joseph was in prison. He had a gift of dreaming, which was a key. He had a key. He could dream. Another key he had was interpretation of dreams. Whilst he was in prison, two men had a dream. Two men had a dream. The baker and the butler had a dream. And they told Joseph their dream. The first reaction, if it was me, I would say, a dream. Bao, bao, bao. Dream. I don't want to be around a dream. It is, I am in prison because of a dream. I am a slave because of a dream. I become a prisoner because I dream a dream and I didn't shut my big mouth and I talked about my dream and it has ended on me. Oh, I don't want any dream. He would have held to his gift and said, I don't want to hear about anybody's dream and I can't interpret your dream. I can't help you. Hear me. Until you can help somebody to interpret their dream in the mix of your afflictions and your crisis, you will never be remembered. You will die in prison. You will die in the prison of life if you don't stop being bitter and stop being angry. And in the mix of your affliction and in the mix of your trouble and challenges, go out of your way. Help somebody, because you don't know who will remember you tomorrow. Put your hands together. Shout yes. The person he was helping was not a financial mogul. He wasn't a businessman or a businesswoman. The person was a nobody. It was a mate, another prisoner. Somebody who was somebody, but at the time he had his dream, he was a nobody. Sometimes we want to help people who will help us back. We want to help people who will do something for us. But you don't know that that person who is nothing and a nobody today, you don't know who they'll become tomorrow. So when you are helping somebody, go out of your way. Do it with your whole heart as unto the Lord, because you don't know who that person will become tomorrow. Is anybody hearing me? Put your hands together. Shout yes. Now, Joseph interpreted the dreams of these two men, the baker and the butler, and said to the baker, you'll be hanged, and to the butler, you'll be reinstated. Then he said to the butler, when you are reinstated, remember me. You know, when I was young and I help people, I always look out for them remembering me and doing something for me. And that is the problem with us as a people, especially those of us who belong to political parties. When you help a party or a president to come into power, when he comes into power, you want him to remember you. You want him to give you a position, even if you haven't developed capacity for that position. Because you help him, he must help you. That's the problem we have with our presidents, because a president coming into office, he has to give everybody a position. He must do something for everybody who helped him. Now, the people who help you to win the election may not have capacity to help you to govern. Those who help you to win election are one different kind. Then those who will help you to govern is another. There has to be provision to take care of those who help you to win the election, so that you are not indebted to them because they help you to win election. You must by all means find them something to do, even when they haven't developed capacity and they haven't gone through the process. You have to give them something to do, and that is how come they mess up, and they mess up presidents. But let me go on. Watch this. Joseph said, when you are reinstated as a butler, the chief chef of the president, remember me. The butler said, I'll remember you. You know how easy it is for people to promise when they have nothing and they are nowhere. Oh, I remember you. I'll marry you. I'll do this for you. Oh, I'll do this. Now lie. Tell somebody, now lie. Because the test of life has to do with what you do when you have power and what you do when you come into relevance and you come into wealth or you come into money. What you do at that time tells who you are and reveals your true self. Until somebody has come into power and into wealth and remembers his friend and still treat people as human beings and not act like because they have power or money, they are Alpha and Omega, you don't know who they are. But let me move on because of my time. Hear me. So Joseph was not remembered by the butler. For 2 years, he was reinstated. And Joseph was still in prison. Nobody remembered him. And Joseph remembered that the butler has been restored. He could see him on BBC in those days and CNN in those days. He could see. And yet, nobody remembered him. You know why he wasn't remembered? Because he wasn't at that time relevant to the vision of the president, and I'll tell you why. You know who put him in prison? The 5-star army general. His name is General Potiphar. He commanded all the troops. He commanded the Navy SEALs, the special forces. The entire army of Egypt was under his command. And he put Joseph in prison, and the reason for putting him in prison was attempting to rape the 5-star general's wife. So all the military was angry with Joseph, and when they saw Joseph, they said, this is the slave who had the audacity to try and rape our general's wife. Listen, there are some situations you can find yourself in. It will take only God to bring you out. Are you hearing me? Joseph's reputation was destroyed. Nobody could help him. The president had no reason to bring Joseph out. He was in a tight place. He couldn't get the army to revolt against him. He will not offend General Potiphar to bring Joseph out. The butler did not remember Joseph because he couldn't have told the king, I have a Hebrew slave, not just a prisoner who is an Egyptian, who has been mishandled, but a Hebrew slave who is also a prisoner who attempted to rape the general's wife. He can interpret dream. It didn't mean anything to the king. That was nothing to the king. That was no reason for the king to tell anybody to go and release Joseph from prison. So it was good that the butler did not even remember Joseph, because the timing would have been wrong, and he could have messed Joseph up if he had come out before the right time. Potiphar would have gone to the king and said, Pharaoh, I've served you well, and your wife is a friend to my wife. They eat together. They go for spas together. And this Hebrew slave attempted to rape my wife, and I put him in prison to punish him. And you bring him out. For what? My wife is giving me problem in the house. Mr. President, I want him back in prison. The president and the king couldn't have done anything about it. So God made the butler to forget and not to remember Joseph. Then come with me to the book of Genesis 41. Let me show you something. Your time for promotion has come. I said your time for promotion has come. Hear me. Somebody here is about to be invited by the president. You are about to be invited to a banquet. You are about to attend a banquet. See, I hear you. Joseph, you see it? 41.
I'm reading from the New King James. Then it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh had a dream, and behold, he stood by the river. Suddenly there came up out of the river 7 cows, fine looking and fat, and they fed in the meadow. Then behold, 7 other cows came up after them out of the river, ugly and gaunt, and stood by the other cows on the bank of the river. And the ugly and gaunt cows ate up the 7 fine looking and fat cows. So Pharaoh awoke. He slept and dreamt a second time.
A second time. Say twice. Say twice. Go ahead.
Suddenly 7 heads of grain came up on one stalk, plump and good. Then behold, 7 thin heads, blighted by the east wind, sprang up after them. And the 7 thin heads devoured the 7 plump and full heads. So Pharaoh awoke, and indeed it was a dream. Now it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled.
His spirit was what? You see, when the Bible said the wealth of the wicked shall be laid up for the righteous, people don't understand. I was asking the Lord how. He said, this is how it will happen. He said the wicked trust in their riches. They have no regard for God or man. And he said, I, the Lord, will orchestrate trouble for the wicked. And their money can't save and deliver them. But me, at that point, their money will become irrelevant. And they'll be willing to part with their money with whoever and whatever can help them to come out of their trouble. Somebody's trouble is about to make somebody relevant.
Now it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt.
All the wise men of Egypt came together.
And all its wise men. And Pharaoh told them his dreams, but there was no one who could interpret them.
Nobody can do what God has called you to do. There is no one like you. You are unique. You are very unique. And what God has assigned to get you to where he wants you to be, nobody has that answer. Nobody has that key but you. The key is in your house. You are about to discover the key, and it will unlock a door. Somebody put your hands together. Shout yes. Go ahead.
Then the chief butler spoke to Pharaoh, saying, I remember my fault this day, when Pharaoh was angry with his servant and put me in custody in the house of the captain of the guard. Both me and the chief baker, we each had a dream in one night, he and I. Each of us dreamed according to the interpretation of his own dream. Now there was a young Hebrew man with us there.
There was what?
A young Hebrew man.
Did you see when he was remembered? He was remembered at a time when the king had need of him. He was remembered at a time when the king was sick, so to put it, and he needed medicine. And no wise man or magician in Egypt had the medicine for the cure of the king's sickness, but a Hebrew slave in prison. At this time, there is nothing Potiphar could say, and there was nothing Potiphar's wife could say to the king's wife to change the mind of the king, because the spirit of the king is troubled. He wants a solution and an answer, and the only person who had the answer was the man that they have framed him, that he attempted to rape Potiphar's wife. The king said, I don't care what it is, I need some answer, I need some solution. Go and bring him here. Somebody put your hands together, shout yeah. Let me tell you something. When is your time? When is your season? When is your turn? No amount of lies, no amount of liars, political liars, financial liars, family liars, hatred or spiritual liars, no amount of it can stop you. When is your time? Somebody put your hands together and say, it's my time. It's my time. Sit down. Go ahead.
And we told him, and he interpreted our dreams for us. To each man he interpreted according to his own dream. And it came to pass, just as he interpreted for us, so it happened. He restored me to my office, and he hanged him. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph.
Pharaoh what?
Sent and called Joseph. And
when Pharaoh sent to go and bring Joseph, Potiphar heard it. Potiphar's wife heard it. And the wife couldn't say anything to the king's wife. Potiphar could not say anything. You know why? Because they were also told that the king is troubled and worried about the dream. And no wise man in Egypt can interpret the dream and help the king to sleep. So everybody said, "Oh, let me mind my own business. I'm not going to attempt to say anything bad. So I will run into trouble and run into trouble with the king's anger." You see, when your time comes, people who even have information and secret about you, they will shut their mouth. They can't even open it, because you become so relevant that anybody who tries to cross you, God will cross them. Anybody who tries to oppose you, God will oppose them. Anybody who will lift up a tongue against you, God will condemn them. Somebody put your hands together, shout yes. Go ahead.
And they brought him quickly out of the dungeon, and he shaved.
They did what?
They brought him quickly.
They brought him what?
Quickly.
Listen, it will be quick. Your change will be quick. It will be suddenly. It will be overnight. It will be like this, a turn around, a turn around, a turn around. Somebody shout a turn around. Somebody say quick. You know why it was quick? Because it was a divine legislation. It was a presidential decree that the king said, "I want that Hebrew slave, whether he's a prisoner or he's a Hebrew or he's a slave, I don't care. He has a key. He has a key. He has an answer to my problem. Go, bring him me quickly, quickly." Hear me. Your season is coming. Your season has come. And your change will be quick. It will be quick. It will be overnight. Somebody put your hands and say quick, 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 quick. Go ahead.
And he shaved. And he shaved, changed his clothing, and came to Pharaoh.
He what?
He shaved.
He what?
Shaved.
You know what the
changed his
problem?
clothing.
Let me tell you what the problem of some of us is. When our season comes, we refuse to switch. Tell somebody, switch. Tell somebody, make a change. Tell somebody, make a turn around, make a turn around. The reason why a lot of people die in prison, the prison of life, is because they are stubborn. They are not flexible. They get stuck in their ways. This is the way I am. This is the way I was born. This is how I am. Me, I'm quiet. I'm very private. I don't like problems. I won't attend the home cells, because when you go to the home cells, other people will get to know you. I don't want to get involved with people. I want to mind my own business. Listen, if you stay stubborn, you will die. Joseph realized, number one, he had to shave, because the Egyptians don't like beard. So the first thing he did, he shaved to change his image. Tell somebody, change your image. Tell somebody, change your attitude. Change your attitude. He changed his attitude. He changed his image. He changed his concept, his perception, his looks, and everything. You know, sometimes I'm privileged over the years to be invited to dinners and cocktails. Most of the dinners and the cocktails, when it's high level, they write the code of dress code. We call it dress code. So you don't wear anything to any banquet. There is a dress code. Do you know that there is a dress code for every occasion in life? And you have to know the dress code for the occasions of life, to dress accordingly. So Joseph shaved. Number two, he removed his garment, the prison garment. He put it aside, and he dressed for where he was going, not for where he was. You have to dress for where you are going. You have to change your concept. You have to change your thought pattern. You have to change your perception. You have to change your attitude. You have to learn to be flexible. Tell somebody, flexibility, flexibility. You need to change your concept. You need to be flexible in life. You need to know when to adjust. When it's winter, you wear winter coats. When it's summer, you put your winter coat down and you wear a summer dress. You have to learn to know the code of dressings for the events of life. Put your hands together. Hear me? So, let's finish. So Joseph came, interpreted the dream, and then look at what happened quickly.
25, and Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dreams of Pharaoh are one. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do.
It's two dreams, but it's one. It means he's saying the same thing. Go ahead.
The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good heads are 7 years. The dreams are one. And the 7 thin and ugly cows which came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty heads blighted by the east wind are 7 years of famine.
Yeah.
This is the thing which I have spoken to Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do.
This is what is to come. I'm here to announce to somebody, I'm giving you advanced knowledge, that the next major event of your life will be a banquet. Thou preparest me a table in the presence of my enemies. Hear me. It is okay to have enemies, because if you don't have enemies, you are not qualified for a table. Go ahead.
Indeed, 7 years of great plenty will come throughout all the land of Egypt. But after them, 7 years of famine will arise, and all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine will deplete the land. So the plenty will not be known in the land because of the famine following, for it will be very severe. And the dream was repeated to Pharaoh twice, because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. Now therefore, let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land to collect 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt in the 7 plentiful years.
In the mix of plenty, you have to always put some aside.
Yes, sir.
Faith, you have to save something. You don't, the problem with Africans and businessmen and women and most of our contractors and people, as soon as they get their first job, they go and buy a Mercedes-Benz, a BM, a Land Cruiser. You haven't even done the job yet. You are driving a Land Cruiser and a Mercedes-Benz. It's a sign of amateur. You are sabotaging yourself. Finish the work. Next thing, they go and buy a land they want to build at airport residential area. Go and buy a house in Trazaco or Airport Hills. You haven't finished the job. The money is not for a house at Trazaco or Airport Hills. That money is to do 4 roads from Accra to Kumasi, another 4 roads from Accra, not 2, so that we'll avoid accident and have value for human life. Go ahead.
He said, and let them gather all the food of those good years that are coming, and store up grain under the authority of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. Then that food shall be as a reserve for the land for the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land may not perish during the famine. So the advice was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of all his servants.
You see, this is very powerful. I like this. There's some key here. You see, it's not enough to have favor with the king. You must also pray for favor with the servants and the people around the king. Because if the king likes you and you are favored with the king, but the people around the king don't like you, they can block you. But Joseph had favor with the king, and he had also favor in the eyes of the servants around the king. May God give you acceptance with the king and those around the king. If you believe it, say yes. You know, I've seen situations where a young lady was in love with a man, and the young man's mother said no. It doesn't mind how much you love the woman if your father and your mother are in opposition. Sister, when you see that, don't play around. Don't say he loved me. It's mommy, you are joking. Mother's influence. When the father is in opposition, that is the time you fast and pray. Because if you don't have the support of them and he marries you, after the marriage, you will see cayenne pepper. See, I hear you. So you need favor. Say favor. Finish quickly.
And Pharaoh said to his servants, can we find such a one as this, a man in whom the Spirit of God is? Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, Inasmuch as God has shown you all this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you.
You see, he was not an interpreter of a dream anymore. He became an executor of the solution to the problem. Hear me. Those of you who say, I don't have money, I don't have money. Until you become a solution to somebody who has money's problem, you will never have money. And I want to announce to you that you have the keys to solve somebody's problem. Microsoft, Bill Gates, he brought a solution to this world. Today we are all buying computers because it is needed. It is needed. It's a solution he provided. He met a need. And we don't care how much we pay for those laptops and computers because it is meeting a need. May God help you to discover your gift and your key, that you are an answer and a solution to somebody's problem. Shout yes.
You shall be over my house, and all my people shall be
Is
ruled.
that what?
You shall be over my house.
You shall be over my house. Me, the king, president, over my house. Number one.
And all my people shall be ruled according to your word.
And all the people of Egypt shall be ruled by your word. Two.
Only in regard to the throne will I be greater than you.
I will only be greater than you when it comes to my throne. Outside of that, you are the boss. Number four.
And Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I have set you over
He
all
said,
the
Joseph,
land.
see what I have done.
I have set
Jeremiah
you over,
1:10. See, I have set you over. Go ahead.
I've set you over all the land of Egypt.
All the land of Egypt, I've set you over it.
Then Pharaoh took his signet ring off his hand and put
He
it on
took his
Joseph's hand.
signet ring, like my ring, and put it on his hands.
And he clothed him in garments of fine linen.
He gave him a brand new garment.
And put
You are about to receive a brand new garment. The old is going, the new is coming. Go ahead.
And he put a gold chain around his neck. And he had him ride in the second chariot which he had.
He what?
He had him ride in his second
The
chariot.
second chariot in the whole of Egypt. Presidential chariot.
And they cried out before him,
And when he was riding, coming, they cried,
bow the knee.
bow,
So he set him over all the land of Egypt.
bow the knee. A time is coming, and those who stood against you will bow their knee. Those who oppose you because they think they have power, access, money, they will bow their knee. Somebody say, bow, bow, bow the knee in the name of Jesus. Now, hear me, listen to it. Now, this was the reason why Joseph had to go to prison. He wouldn't have become prime minister if he had stayed in Potiphar's house. And the prison he was sent to was where the king or the president kept his political prisoners and people who oppose him from his own party and the opposition party. They were kept there. So Joseph went there and lived with all these political minds and brains, understanding the protocol and the methodology of the Egyptian politics. He was learning their ways to understand governance because he was a slave. The Bible didn't say anything about education. So he didn't have any formal education. And here, a man who was a slave, a prisoner, no formal education, became the prime minister or the vice president to govern a superpower in those days, like America. No background. But God used the prison as a process to prepare him. Watch me, the dream and the famine was necessary to make him relevant. Because without the famine and without the dream of Pharaoh, Joseph would have died in prison. Nobody would have gotten him out. Nobody. And do you know, when the king made the decree and promoted Joseph, Joseph was higher than Potiphar, who put him in prison. He became number 2. There was a cocktail that very evening, and I saw Potiphar and the wife there. When they came and they greeted and salute Pharaoh, the next person they salute and they greeted was Joseph. Come on, somebody, put your hands together. Your enemies are about to celebrate you. Your enemies, they are about to celebrate you. And there is nothing they can say to stop you. There's nothing they can say to poison anybody to close the door. God said, I have the keys of David. When I open, no man can shut. When I shut, no man can open. I apply these keys on your behalf. From today, that this coming week, let every closed door be open. Let every closed door be open. Let every closed door be open in your life. Financial doors, political doors, marital doors, doors of business, family doors. Let it be unlocked. If you believe it, stand on your feet. Put your hands together. Shout yes.